Hello everyone, welcome back to the 12 Laws of the Brain series.
Woo!
In today's video, we'll explore a fundamental law of the brain. Law number 7, sleep. Good sleep, good thinking. In this law, we'll learn about the surprisingly strong connection between the quality of sleep and the quality of thinking. Let's start with the first part. Part 1, the dark side of staying awake. Have you ever challenged yourself to see how many nights in a row you can stay awake? In 1965, a 17-year-old high school student named Randy Gardner did just that. He didn't sleep for 11 consecutive days. But after only 5 days, Randy began seeing things that didn't exist, becoming disoriented, paranoid, and confused. Doctors said his brain showed symptoms similar to Alzheimer's disease.
Oh no!
Towards the end, his hands trembled, his speech became slurred, and his brain nearly lost control. The terrifying thing is that Randy wasn't using stimulants, had no underlying medical conditions. He simply wasn't sleeping. And this leads to a huge question. Why does sleep, the thing that keeps us immobile and vulnerable, occupy a third of human life for millions of years of evolution? To answer this question, we will delve deeper into this rule of 7. We will move on to part 2, the battle inside the brain. Before we begin, I have a question for everyone. If there were a drug that completely eliminated the need for sleep while maintaining alertness, would humans be able to work more efficiently? Let's get back to the main point. It turns out that an endless battle is constantly raging inside our brains. For scientists, there's a rather academic name for it: the antagonistic process model. But to put it simply, there are two systems in the body constantly vying for control. One side keeps us awake, while the other pressures us to go to sleep. Imagine it this way for easier understanding, like two armies. Process C is the awake army. It keeps us awake all day. But at the same time, the sleep army, or process S, is quietly accumulating strength. After about 16 hours, the wake army is exhausted and surrenders, and so we fall asleep. The sleep army will take control for about 8 hours before the cycle starts again. And the key point is this: this battle isn't a metaphor. It happens every day, every night, never stopping. It's the fundamental biological rhythm that determines when we need to be awake and when we absolutely must rest. Based on that, you have the answer to the question. If there were a drug that completely eliminated the need for sleep while maintaining alertness, would humans be able to work more efficiently? The answer is no. Sleep is not just about physical rest. It's a necessary stage for the brain to process information. When we lack sleep, our cognitive abilities decrease by 60% in just 2 nights. Sleep deprivation destroys memory, learning, and can even lead to death, as in the case of fatal familial insomnia. Eliminating sleep doesn't create superhumans. It creates a damaged brain. Now let's look at the positive side. Sleep is not a passive state like turning off the computer and resting. It's actually a powerful, active process that enhances our intellectual capacity. We'll move on to part 3, the secret weapon, sleep. Before we get to this part, I have a question for everyone. Based on this mechanism, how should you study for exams most effectively? You probably heard the saying, leave it, sleep it out, and deal with it tomorrow. That's not just emotional advice, that's neuroscience. Mendeleev, who reorganized the entire field of chemistry, said that the structure of the periodic table appeared to him during a sleep. This shows that while sleeping, the brain isn't just resting, it's also organizing and connecting ideas in completely new and creative ways. And this isn't just an anecdote. One study asked participants to solve a series of difficult problems without realizing there was a very simple shortcut. In the group that didn't get enough sleep, only 20% discovered this shortcut. But what about the group that got a full 8 hours of sleep? That rate skyrocketed to 60%. In other words, sleep tripled the chances of a breakthrough idea flashing through your mind. So what was actually happening in the brain at that time? Researchers discovered this through experiments with mice in a maze. When the mouse learned to navigate the maze, its brain created a very specific pattern of electrical activity. And what's amazing? When the mouse slept, its brain replayed that exact pattern, but at a much faster speed. It was as if it were fast-forwarding to rehearse and reinforce the lesson. Based on that, you now have the answer to the question. Based on this mechanism, how should you study for exams most effectively? The answer is, focus your studies during the day, get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and avoid studying through the night. Studying at night doesn't make you smarter. It robs your brain of the opportunity to process the information. And now, we'll talk about something more familiar to each of us. Not everyone has the exact same sleep cycle. Understanding your sleep type can significantly optimize your productivity. We'll move on to part 4. Are you an owl or a nightingale? Before we begin, I have a question. Why is forcing students, who tend to be owls, to study at 7 a.m. a waste of intellectual capacity? Let's get back to the main point. Statistics show that about 10% of the population are typical nightingales. They are most alert in the morning and go to bed early. About 20% are night owls. They reach their peak performance in the evening and stay up very late. The majority of the rest falls somewhere in between. The important takeaway here is that these tendencies have a genetic basis. Forcing a night owl to be productive at 6 a.m. is just as futile as forcing a nightingale to be creative at midnight. Based on that, you now have the answer to the question, why is forcing students, who tend to be owls, to study at 7 a.m. a waste of intellectual capacity? The answer is, during puberty, melatonin production is high, making late-night sleep a natural biological tendency. Forcing yourself to wake up early creates chronic sleep debt, leading to reduced concentration, impaired working memory, and a lack of fully utilized IQ. The problem isn't with poor students, but with an unawake brain. But whether you're a night owl or a lark, there's one biological need we almost all share. That's the urge to nap. We'll get to the final part of this rule. Part 5. The power of naps. Before we begin, I have a question for everyone. In a culture that celebrates busyness and relentless work, have we underestimated one of the most powerful tools for achieving mental clarity and creativity? And why are we willing to sacrifice the very thing that helps us think better? Back to the main point. It may sound strange, but even U.S. President Lyndon B. Johnson made it a habit to take a 30-minute nap each day. He believed it gave him extra energy for a second workday. Sleep researchers would say that he was actually the one who was biologically right. We, struggling to fight off afternoon drowsiness, are the abnormal ones. Now look at these numbers. 34%. This is the level of performance improvement NASA pilots achieved after just a 26-minute nap. Just think, what other strategy could deliver such a significant result in such a short amount of time? So what happens when we ignore the brain's needs? Well, sleep deprivation accumulates like a never-ending debt.
Oh no!
Look at this chart to see how quickly things go wrong. After just one sleepless night, cognitive skills decreased by 30%. After 2 nights, that number rose to 60%. And even more worrying, sleeping only 6 hours a night for 5 consecutive days can cause a decline equivalent to staying awake for 48 hours straight. Essentially, every vital cognitive function is severely affected, from the ability to concentrate, remember information, make decisions, to regulate emotions, and even motor skills. To put it bluntly, lack of sleep completely paralyzes our thinking. Based on that, you already have the answer to the question. In a culture that celebrates busyness and relentless work, have we underestimated one of the most powerful tools for achieving mental clarity and creativity? And why are we willing to sacrifice the very thing that helps us think better? The answer is, yes, we have underestimated sleep, confusing busyness with efficiency. While continuous work is rewarded by society, sleep, the foundation of clear thinking and creativity, is undervalued. We're willing to sacrifice it because the harmful effects of sleep deprivation occur insidiously, not immediately. But that very fact degrades the quality of our thinking in the long run. Therefore, sleep is not the enemy of productivity, but the best companion of the mind. Insomnia not only makes you tired, but also accelerates aging. A 30-year-old who is sleep-deprived for 6 days will have the same body chemistry as a 60-year-old. To optimize the brain, we need 1. Listen to your circadian rhythm, whether you're a nightingale or an owl. 2. Take advantage of short naps, about 20 to 30 minutes. 3. Never underestimate the importance of putting things off until tomorrow morning. In short, good sleep is good thinking. Respect your brain's physiological needs so it can serve you at its peak performance. Thank you for watching. See you in the next rule in the 12 Laws of the Brain series.